Start streaming.
Firing it up.
Here we go. Here we go. Bring it to me.
Just got me a push notification.
Booyah.
Let's see. I'm probably going to turn that off. There we go.
Let's see. Then I can tweet it out.
Oh, yeah. Tweeter. The tweeter.
Yes, sir.
On the Twitters. Let's see here.
There we go. I will tweet it out. Booyah. What's up, everybody who's on? Who do we have? Who do we have? Getting ready to kick this thing off. You might notice a little bit different background for Mr. Sherwin there.
Yeah. What is it they're saying? Oh, a box of Kleenex, a bottle of cool water cologne. Depends on how much investigating they want to do in the background over there.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to, it would be very difficult to see.
Good.
Yeah. Or to discern, I should say. What up, y'all? We got a couple folks on. Good to see ya. Thanks for dropping by. Have you a little fun, get you a little drink. It's a little bit, it's cool to say now that it's a little bit different kind of episode, whereas this was kind of our standard for how long? 25 episodes or something?
Yeah, this is the way it started. Yeah, 25, yeah, a half a year.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty much what it was.
Yep. Matt Benedetto fan, this week's end race was such a mess.
Indeed.
Yeah, we'll get into that for sure. What'd you say, Sherwin? 8 cars on the lead lap, or 8 cars?
I think there was 12 that made the last restart, but there was like 4 of them were beat to hell.
Yeah,
there's really only 8 cars that had a legitimate chance to win.
Yeah. Which, I mean, there's your old school racing for you right there. We'll get into that.
Oh, man. Yep.
Let's see. Do a minor adjustment here with my name. We're going to pull it down just a hair, make sure it looks good. Are you seeing it on YouTube?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, cool. Okay. So, it looks, did you see this Starcom Racing is starting at Kansas? I did not.
Guess that's a new team.
Cool. Who's making their debut with Derek Cope? No. Yes?
Yeah. Actually, I think I did know that. I don't think I knew it was Kansas. I knew there was going to be a new team with Derek Cope as the driver.
Oh, cool.
I read something to that effect. Man, I might need to turn this light out or something.
Pat Green returns to Texas to headline Loud and Proud pre-race show. Well, that's fun, too.
Let's see what we can do here. Because that light is, that's not going to be dark enough, I don't think.
If you got one that shines in your face, that's the best one, as we usually...
Yeah.
As we've kind of found out in the studio.
How dark is this? It's like on 6-second delay to me. That's probably too dark.
Yeah. It's better with the light on.
Yep.
Sorry, y'all. If you're watching, we're doing a little bit of figuring stuff out. Greg Galding got 9th this weekend. Wow. Oh, good for him.
That's plate racing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can ride around all day and avoid the wrecks. You're going to get a good finish.
Yes. Greg Galding in 9th. Yeah, that's a big story, actually. We'll hit on that too. I'll keep all this stuff up. Yeah, I mean that's fine, Sherwin. I think all good.
It probably looks worse on my screen than it does in reality.
Yeah.
It's probably because it's fluorescent light.
Oh, possibly. Yeah. Yeah, and I've got this, whatever this one is. Was that? Nope, that's incandescent.
It looks funny when you got that light pointed straight at your face.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All on my face for radio.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you all for joining. As you can see, we are not in the same place today. Sherwin is at his house. I'm at my house in the PTM Podcast Studio. So we're flying solo a bit and no guests. So you're just going to hear us just ramble on about whatever. And be sure to we're pretty light on notes, which means we're probably going to have an hour and a half show, knowing us. And so definitely send us any questions or any comments or anything. We'll be watching the stream here and looking forward to it. So,
show.
Yeah. You ready to roll, Sherwin?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, why not? Let me do a quick sound check before we do anything. I'm just gonna record myself right quick. Go loud, go soft. I don't like that. Let's bring that up. That sounds good. That's better. Something like that. Okay, Sherwin, go ahead.
Okay, so loud and then a little bit softer, and then loud and then softer.
Yeah, I've still got to do some messing with this thing. Not sure what happened, but I'll figure it out eventually. Let's see. I think actually if I did that one, that and that, let's see if that's any better. Whoa, we need to definitely not have my sound on my phone jumping out at me. Let's go ahead and turn that off.
Pulling a me.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. All right. Why does it not want to record like that? We'll do that. We will talk a bit. And all right, we're just going to have to deal with it like this. Hopefully that works out.
Cool.
All right, sir. With that, let's get her started. We'll start recording now. Welcome, y'all!
Hello!
That was a good one. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 117. It's Tuesday, October 17, 2017. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm in the PTM Podcast studio, but Mr. Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin is not. What's up, dude?
Yeah, I'm at home. We haven't done one of these remote things in forever, but channeling my inner Marty Smith, I do have my guitar sitting next to me. So I had to beat on it a little bit.
That's pretty sweet. We'll get into it in a minute. But before that, y'all, this podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. Go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drinking Club for as little as $1 a month and get that free koozie. Best part is, every cent in 2017, we're donating to sponsoring drivers. So join the PTM posse today and be a part of the sport that you love. This week's show is brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. That's Catherine Kingston, Ashley Stang, Harry Bolzania, Mark Wiley, Greg Smulders, Mick Rose, Robert Kappingler, Tony Salt, Colby McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marion Levesque, Patrick Cleary, Aaron Bearden, Jeff Brown, Chad Sterling, and welcome to the PTM posse, Mr. Stephen Linden.
All right.
How about that, dude?
That's a pretty cool list.
Yeah, it's only growing. That's so cool. It's so neat to see people who want to support what we're doing, and more importantly, like we keep saying, we're gonna write a check at the end of the year for however much money that is, which we kind of assumed once we started this whole thing. Maybe we'll have like a couple $100 to throw somebody, and then suddenly it's gonna be like $1,000 or something. So slinging dollar bills.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So excited about that.
Well, we could buy half of one set of tires for Cup, or we could probably fund somebody's entire Legends season.
Yeah, right. So, Sherwin, you're kind of the guest today. It's a little weird. I'm looking.
I know.
Across from me.
You should treat me like a guest.
Yeah,
I feel like a guest.
I'm looking across from me at an empty chair, and I'm doing a podcast. We haven't done that since like I think we're talking the pre-show episode 25 or so. I mean, we did it for a while, but now we
did, and then it was so well. It felt like to me, at least, that it was so much better being in person. That was just a worthwhile endeavor to use the extra time.
Yeah. Well, hopefully our charisma and whatever else we've built over the last year and a half since we've been doing it remote, we can get through the podcast this way. But got a lot to talk about and not a lot to talk about. So if you're on the YouTube and you're watching live, be sure to send in any questions and stuff, and we'll get to it. Otherwise, we're just gonna BS and enjoy ourselves and have a little fun and drink a little beer, drink a little the brown stuff. Sherwin, what you got today?
Yeah, I've got some Evan Williams 100 proof tonic. Okay. And I last minute I ran out because I knew how easy it was to find. Once I knew of a Kansas brewery, I forgot that Boulevard is Kansas City.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I have a bourbon barrel quad. This is probably going to put me down for the count.
Bourbon barrel quad. And you've got some liquor sitting next to you. I'm running on leftovers here. So if you remember that Pico to Mexico, that cucumber lime lager with a hint of habanero flavor, I'm still choking these things down. I bought a 6-pack like 2 weeks ago, and I'm still working. I think this is number 4 in that number. But
is that like the equivalent of running a hamburger through the garden? Did you run that beer through the garden?
Yeah, something like that. Just about. Ooh, it's I'm not gonna poop on a brewery. I mean, do what you're gonna do. But boy, this is the cucumber thing. You and I have talked about it. Cucumber in your beer, like don't cuke the beer. You know.
Yeah, don't cucumber your wins and don't cucumber your beer.
Yeah, this is a cucumbered beer. I like that. But on deck, what you brought over 2 weeks ago, I think. There's still a little bit left in it, and I said, well, heck, I'll just grab that and take it up here with me, and we'll see how deep I decide to get into that, huh?
Yep.
I have not. He's clacking away. That's
Well, I wanted to answer. So part of what we were going to do today to enhance the content, since we're not in the same room, is to be a little bit more active in vocalizing what's happening on the live chat board.
Oh, sure.
Matt DiBenedetto fan was asking, do we not Periscope anymore? And the answer to that, Matt, is very sparingly. The YouTube was a much better platform for doing our actual show. But on occasion, we'll still Periscope, or I will. And actually, lately what I've been doing is having one of those guys from Black Traffic, like FaceTime me on the phone, and I just put his phone next to my phone so they can hear him answering me.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a good call.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, and Periscope, boy, if for the old school fans of the PETM posse, y'all know how it is with Periscope. All those times that it was like, hey, I'm not getting it up. It's doing that mess. So once we switched over to YouTube, man, it's been pretty smooth. I mean, obviously we don't get the I think there's a lot of just random people who jump on. So you'll get the 25, 30, 50, whatever people watching on Periscope. On the YouTube, you get the diehard fans, you know?
Yeah, well, and there's a lot more sharing with Periscope. You know, like it's a little bit easier function because you can just do it with your thumbs. I mean, I think you can do that if you're watching this YouTube on your phone. You can definitely hit the share button, and like Facebook and copy link and Instagram and stuff will come up in there. But there's 2 or 3 extra steps you have to go to share.
Right. So I haven't brought it up yet, but you're still rocking the big beard, dude. What's the story there? I'm digging it. The
beard is going to go on until it's time for mustaches.
Oh, I like that. A lot. Yeah, I should just start growing. I haven't trimmed the mustache area in a couple weeks, so that's just going to keep going then. We're just going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, that's I haven't grown it. I really haven't grown it out at all before. Nothing like, well, Clark did last year, and I was like, man, I want to do that.
Yeah. Buddy of ours goes to Georgia Tech game stuff. He had it going. Oh, he had it going nice. That was a real beard. So good to see you with the beard, and hopefully we'll see it live here
Yeah,
maybe
I
next
think I'm
week.
gonna have to learn how to use like a beard product to
Products.
tame it at some point.
Yeah, right.
So I must, yeah, get some of that beard butter or whatever.
So Sherwin texted me last night and pretty much said, I hope that I get jury duty." And I think for the first time in the history of law-abiding citizens in America, somebody was rooting for jury duty. What's the story?
Yeah, well, so there was this. There's a big meeting going on for my company up in North Carolina, and it was pretty important for me to be there. But I had a jury summons, and the way it works down here in Fulton County, or up here, I should say, for you,
Yeah.
in Fulton County, is you're on some kind of list. You get grouped up, and then you call in at like 5:01 the day before you're supposed to report, and they tell you whether or not you had to report. Now, this is the third time for me that I haven't had to report, so I was going to be surprised if I got called. They don't like my demographic on juries, as it turns out, or yours either. But we could save the reasons why. But, yeah, so I was supposed to get on a plane. Like, I was supposed to be getting on a plane right now to fly to Charlotte. But greater minds and heads prevailed, and I'm going in the morning.
All right. So either way, we get to do the podcast. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I had jury duty once so far in DeKalb County where I live, and they do it a little different. They do like they call it a 1 day, 1 trial, which over in other counties in Georgia you can just be called up to trials over and over and over again. You have to do 5 days worth. I mean, it's all a mess. Whereas in DeKalb, it's just hey, you get called in, and if you never get called to trial, you're done for that day, and you're done with your jury duty. And if you do get called to a trial, if you're not picked, then you're done. That's it. You get to go home. So I went into one where this old man was suing this company and all kinds of companies on some sort of vitamin supplement he was taking that had 8,000% the amount of selenium that you're supposed to intake, which, like all things that are kind of supplement related, you can't really kill yourself with that much, but if you're old, it does some bad things, evidently. So,
well, that's one of those heavy metals you don't really want a whole lot of, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of messed him up a little bit, and he was suing people. So it was funny because he had this country lawyer in there, and he was up against these like Monsanto, type of people.
Oh yeah,
Merck, and I mean
like that Pfizer.
They had 20-something lawyers, and this guy was just this country lawyer. Most interesting question I got asked was, what bumper stickers do you have on your car? And I was like, oh boy, well, this is going to just straight up get me out of here. I was like, I got a Casey Kane racing sticker. I've got a PTM podcast sticker. Not at that time, actually, but I had the Georgia Tech alumni sticker, and I had an NRA membership sticker. I think that one probably got me disqualified. But you're right about the demographic thing. It was wild. The way that, and I mean, these are supposedly just random people that they pick up. They were asking questions about, okay, who, they didn't ask who does take medicine on a daily basis. They asked who doesn't take medicine on a daily, like medicine or vitamin supplements or something, like who's not on a daily regimen of something. And I raised my hand and they asked me why. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't eat pills. I wasn't like, what? My answer was, I never started. I don't get it. I'm not sure why do I have to explain why I don't do anything? Like I don't I don't upper deck my toilet either. Why not? Because you don't.
Yeah, I don't have a condition that requires maintenance medicine.
Right. And I mean, I shouldn't say condolences, but I certainly. I can't relate to people, but I understand people who do have to take stuff every day. But it was just funny the way they said that. So anyway, Rusty's jury duty story. I did not get picked, and the people who got picked, there was like a bus crossing guard, and there was all these people who were. There's some big old fat people too. I gotta tell you, and ended up. I looked at it later. 2-week trial. They never settled, and he won $2 million off of it. So. All this is public record, so I feel fine talking about it, and it was probably 5 or 6 years ago anyway. So, anyway, well, there's a way to fill some time on a show.
Long story short,
where we don't have a whole lot of time or a whole lot of notes.
Yeah, how many of y'all thought you were going to get a jury duty story today?
Yeah, yeah. So it's episode 117. It's time to talk about car number 17. Can't talk about 17 without Mr. Matt Kenseth. Mr. Kenseth.
Kansas, ironically.
Right? He 471 races in the 17 with 24 wins. Doesn't have the most wins, though. Other people with wins, Darrell Waltrip, 344 races, 15 wins. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., of course, had those 2 wins in 17. David Pearson, 140 races with 30 wins, 30 of his 105 wins in the number 17, but 30 in 140. I mean, holy crap, you know?
It's amazing how many races they won versus entered. You know, there's the old saying, or not the saying, but the theory is that if the Wood brothers and David Pearson had decided to actually run full seasons, that he would have 250 or 300 wins.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just unbelievable. We're talking about, I mean, that's more than 1 in 5. That'd be 150 races. He only had 140, and he won 30. And that's only and that's of his 105 wins. So what can you say? That's unbelievable.
They were fast, very fast.
I did write some notes about a fella named Fred Harb. He had 110 races and 9 top 5s, no wins in the 17. But I always like to look up somebody who probably hasn't had a spot on a podcast or show or anything ever. He was born in 1930, had 144 starts in the mid-50s to the 60s. Here's a fun story. So his fellow race car driver, Bill Morton, he apparently saved his life in 1958 when Morton's car was upside down in the middle of the track, and Fred pulled his car up in front of it and absorbed other cars that were coming by, like had him hit him instead of hit the upside down car to save the guy. I mean, just unbelievable. Like,
wow,
to think about that in that short amount of time. Like, oh, I should just put my car here so it doesn't, so people hit me and not him because I can absorb it. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, think about the 50s. Cars had started to transition from the street rods or whatever, hot rods.
Yeah,
from
the racing bodies
to gigantic tanks.
yeah. Stuff they're selling out there, the huge Fords and the all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. When did the Galaxy come out? 55, I think, maybe.
Man, talk about a boat. Jeez. So he then went on to be a member of the U.S. Army during the Korean War. So all these guys, we've talked about it so many times. How many of these guys were race car drivers and then went and decided to join the Army, and then they come back and race cars again? We've said it about numerous people on this show so far.
Yeah. Pretty common. I think that's why we all still call them the greatest generation.
Sure.
Some definitely tough people.
He had some success in the NASCAR Convertible Series. At the same time that he was cup racing, he's like, you know what, this is okay, but I'll go ahead and race without tops on.
You know, it's a funny time. I'd like to do more research, maybe some kind of expose type story in the off season about that, because you know that was they were in parallel. They were basically racing the same cars. They just had the roof cut off of them, and they had a roll cage in them, and it was like, who thought this was a good idea?
Right. I have no idea what the thought process is for. You know what? It's the 50s and 60s. If it's got wheels, we're gonna race it. So.
Well, I don't know. Do you remember there was a race not all that long ago? Casey was still driving the 9. I don't know if it was his last season or maybe second to last with that team, but like somebody's brake rotor broke. Wow, that's hard to say. And like a chunk of it went in his the roof, like right where the little hole in the 9 is. You know, it was just rattling around in there.
Yeah,
I remember the radio chatter. This is why it all sticks in my mind. He's like, "Well, sure, just got a lot cooler in here."
It was the funniest thing. I think you and I were both listening. We were either together or I think we weren't, and we were texting back and forth. Did you just hear that? Holy crap!
It was pretty funny.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and then that chunk would be landing on your head. that
could be coming in and just bouncing off your helmet.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. So
they didn't really wear like helmets back then either.
Right, exactly. Shoot, they were wacko. Is what it comes down to. What a bunch of idiots! Why are they doing this?
Yeah, what you don't know can't hurt you, right?
I guess so. So Mr. Fred Harb, he died. He passed away at age 86 in December of this last year. So hats off and drinks up, Mr. Fred Harb. Maybe somebody out there who.
Hat off because of my headset.
Oh yeah, I got you.
In theory, it's off.
Mm-hmm. There we go. So with that, Sherwin, let's go ahead and tear it down.
Sweet.
There it is. So we went to Dega. We expected Ford to do well. I picked Kurt Busch, and he had the big fat DNF, but we had a Ford win anyway, huh?
Yeah, well, it's nice to pick the winner, except for when your podcast pick'em standoff rules are it's aggregate finish.
Yeah.
So we lost to the lap traffic boys. It's now 8-9. We're behind the 8 ball with 5 to go. We must win 3 of the next 5.
I predict a PTM victory overall. What do you think?
Well, I mean, there's no reason not to have confidence in yourself. So I told Brandon we had to come up with something creative to do for, that the loser has to do or the winner gets to do. And I said, well, it can't be high stakes because we've been goofing off on these picks for most of the year.
No kidding. I picked Kurt Busch at a track he's never even sniffed at a top 5 on.
Yeah, so, but you're right. Ford prevails again. So our Ford versus Toyota pick, because they had Hamlin and Kenseth. Obviously, we made the better picks there. But how about Brad hammer timing that message that Ford, they got a great product for plate racing because it's so aerodynamic, but it doesn't have enough downforce at the other tracks to beat the Toyotas and the Chevys. So he was still at it, even in victory lane. I kind of applaud him for his commitment to that politicking.
And, I wrote down some notes later on. Matter of fact, I'll do it right now because I put it in the tearing it down section. He said that Martinsville is a must-win for him, and he's talking about, the Ford's just – it's a place where they spin the tires so much that having all that extra horsepower that the Toyotas have, it's not going to help them because it's just going to be spinning tires. So it's that downforce, it's that grip at Martinsville that is the great equalizer for them. So he feels like that's a must-win kind of area. And then he wrote off. We'll do the gassing it up here later, but he sort of wrote off Kansas and Texas as just kind of like, well, I mean, Yoda's going to do good there, so we got to win at Martinsville. That's their focus.
He's staying true to his message about. And you know what? I heard there's been a couple podcasts already posted this week that I listened to, and they make a good point in that Brad's lobby isn't to NASCAR. Brad's lobby is to Ford.
Sure.
Yeah. Ford needs to build their daily driver passenger vehicle that has an opportunity to create some downforce, because that's what Toyota did. Toyota was really good, and the nose piece looked really nice, but they went ahead and redesigned it anyway because they wanted to go faster.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they did the reboot so quickly on the Camry, because it changed quite a bit from what it was the last 3 or 4 years to what it is today.
Yeah. So, props to Toyota on doing that. And Brad Keselowski, I don't know. I wonder how many ears do you think he has listening to him on that? What do you think he's going to affect any change here, or is he just sort of yelling to
I think
deaf ears?
I think they're going to have a brand new car in 2019. That's what I think.
Okay. Predicted by Mr. Sherwin on the podcast. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it may even be a switch to a pony car like Chevy did.
Mm-hmm. So another one of the big stories out of Dega was Junior. I mean, for the people, and I think a lot of the fans too, who are bitter about him leaving, and then just kind of saying, well, he's given up, and what a strong finish for him when the Yodas are doing great. The Fords are obviously great at plates, and here comes Junior with his Chevy.
Yeah, Junior had a good run. I think the thing that's interesting is, well, not interesting, that's the wrong choice of words, but Talladega sold a bunch of tickets. Mm-hmm. And I was actually on 285 about to get on I-20 on the phone with their ticket office when they said they were out of hot passes.
Oh, man.
Like, well, if I can't get a hot pass, I think I got to watch this on the television.
Yeah.
So I turned around.
Wow.
and drove back home.
Wow.
I wanted to be there real bad. It just didn't make sense to me. I wanted to access. Otherwise, what are you going to do? Like, if you're going to be at the track and Junior wins the damn thing, don't you have to be in victory
You got to
lane,
be there.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so anyway, I'm already kind of started looking at tickets to the other racetracks.
I like where your mind's at.
I mean, there's the one I really want to go to that I know you want to go to too is on the same weekend as a football game. But there is one that's not aligned with a football game.
Is that right?
That is piquing my interest.
Which one is that?
That would be Homestead.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Duh. Oh, holy crap. Yeah. Yeah. We got to get to Homestead at some point. And by that time, I might have the itch. We'll see. We'll see. Because having to miss Darlington was a rough one. So.
Oh, yeah. You're one in the hole. You almost went two in the hole.
Almost. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah. One note that you wrote here that I think is interesting, there were really only 8 cars left at the end of the race. What's the deal there? Is that acceptable? I like the posture that you made there. Is that even acceptable?
Yeah, so because that's what the discussion really is, right? So let's suspend the idea or the rhetoric that we've used in the past about what we think plate racing is, because that doesn't really matter, because we're going to keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I think what really matters is in a playoff type race is reckon every car, but I mean there was 12 on the track basically, and 4 of them were all beat to hell, and there was 8 cars in the gaggle that made a run to the finish.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, I mean I don't know how you'd fix it otherwise, but is that acceptable to you as a fan? Is it acceptable as us as for us as like quasi media here doing this podcast thing? I don't know. You know what, I don't want to go deep down in the hole of like being super negative about it, but it feels kind of weird.
As we were chit-chatting and running over the limited show notes here beforehand, I think I just made the offhand comment, well, for the people who like old school, there you go. that's right? Old school right there.
A little bit of sarcasm, a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, but You're not wrong.
You're not wrong, Walter. Yeah, so, that's old school Talladega. If that's what you like out of Talladega, the pack racing, the big one, all that. I mean, this is one of the effects of that when stuff goes south. I don't know. It's hard to say. We've said it before. Not every race has to be the spectacular, crazy finish. With 25 guys with a chance at the end. So is this an outlier? Whatever. I'm not sure. Truth time. I didn't watch a single lap of the race, so I'm talking out of my butt right now. Trying to do a podcast.
Well, but you understand what it is.
Oh, sure.
I think one of the big takeaways for me was, Talladega is Earnhardt country. They've been running that theme, that meme, whatever you want to call it, ad, for half the year now, and talking about how important Earnhardts have been to the Talladega fan base and the track itself. And I tell you what I heard. When that 24 came off turn 4 and took the lead, that crowd was just as loud.
Yes, yes, they were.
I think it may not ever become Elliott country the way it has been Earnhardt country.
Sure.
But those fans are going to be there, and they're going to be loud, and they're going to be cheering for the guys like Chase and Blaney's and those younger guys that are running up front that are legacies. I think Talladega might be a legacy track more than it is an Earnhardt track.
Sure. And it's good to see the fans emerging for the younger drivers, because I think for a while there, the young drivers coming in weren't getting a whole lot, or were getting just as much hate, which maybe that's a good thing. All publicity is good or whatever. But there seems to be this general nobody hates on Chase right now. Nobody's hating on Blaney. There's such good stories there. And maybe eventually they'll get that love-hate thing, but it's really fun to watch right now with everybody in the same camp on a few guys.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think at some point, whenever a driver wins enough, they're always going to develop a hater crowd because nobody wants to see their guy not win all the time, right? And we're so split up. We have so many different drivers. You get so many different fan bases, but I don't foresee a situation in which Chase or Blenny would ever be seen as villains.
Yeah, yeah. So I mentioned it before. The Rusty Talladega boycott accidentally continued this year. I fully intended to watch it until there's always a fall race that I can't watch because me and the old lady, we go out for our anniversary, and our anniversary always consists of going to a roller coaster park that we have not been to yet. So we went to Kings Island just outside of Cincinnati, and had a blast riding those roller coasters, dude. I was laughing with some coworkers, and I said, there's all those dreams that you have as a kid and stuff, and you're 10 years old and you're watching TV and they're showing like the top 10 roller coasters on Earth and stuff, and always near the top, if you know anything about roller coaster stuff, is the Beast at Kings Island. And as a kid with no means to get to a park like that, I'm like, I'm gonna ride the Beast one day. One day I'm gonna go to all the theme parks. I'm gonna ride all the roller coasters. It's gonna be awesome. And of all the shattered dreams that I've had as a kid, at least kid me would be very proud of adult me for going and riding all the roller coasters. So it's a throwback to my youth and being I want to ride everything. And now as an adult, quote unquote, I'm riding everything.
That's awesome. Well, that's why I wanted to put a line item in the notes about it, because to me it's pretty cool that's you're committed to reviving your youthful what's the word? Your youthfulness,
ambitions, or whatever. The
your
priorities
and desires as a child. You're living it out as an adult, and I think that's how anybody would want it to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to be an astronaut, but I'm wearing glasses, which immediately pretty much throws you out of that. And,
oh yeah, well, I got my first set of glasses when I was 9 years old, so that was never going to work out.
Right. So yeah, we had a blast doing that. But yeah, I've not been shy about talking about my Talladega boycott for I think 3 years now. And then I finally said, it's Junior's last race, I'm watching it. And then suddenly there was almost like I laughed when I figured out that I'm not going to be able to watch Talladega. I was like, go figure. The gods don't want me to watch it anyway. So there you go. Whatever.
So you know what? I did read something interesting over the weekend, or maybe after the race was over, that I never thought of, and I'm surprised that anybody did actually. There was morbid's the wrong word, but there was some definitely, like Gluck, for instance, wrote about like what if Junior gets hurt in this race and that's what ends his career. I'm like, damn, what a dark thing to talk about. I mean, it's a reality. Of course, it's a reality.
Sure.
You always want to talk about all the different realities, but I was like, man, that never even occurred to me to think about that.
Yeah. So, but one thing, dude, we haven't talked about it. Cincinnati, me and Serena, we were joking. People were telling, oh, what are y'all going to do for your anniversary? We're going to Cincinnati. And we were laughing it up because, who just goes to Cincinnati to eat their crappy chili? I went there. But Cincinnati is a awesome city. They had this festival going on. There was a ton of people. And they have this little tram, and for $1, you can ride the tram around to all the breweries, and they have a bunch of old churches that I guess went either derelict or abandoned or whatever, and all these breweries started popping up in them. So you walk into this former church, and like where the organ used to be, there's now these big silos for their stuff and mash tuns and stuff, and it's like, oh wow, this is my church.
Great song too.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
Yeah. So Cincinnati is pretty cool. I think Serena posted on Facebook. She said, "Cincinnati, the surprisingly fun city," and somebody had responded like, "They should make that their slogan. Like, just own that. Hey, it's surprisingly fun here. Even these people.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that don't even realize that when you fly into Cincinnati, you're actually landing in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You land in Kentucky and you drive north you have to drive for 20 minutes to get to actual Ohio. So there you go. Yeah,
one of the things that's really cool is when you cross the river there and you see both the stadiums just right there on the river.
Those are... If you're an old school Braves fan, I saw the Red Stadium and just, steaming out of my hat. But those.
Chris Sabo and Hal Morris, those sons of bitches.
So that said, though, those stadiums are really cool looking, and yeah, seeing them side by side like that is, I didn't realize necessarily the proximity. I mean, I've seen it on TV, but not until you get there and you're like, "There's that. Oh, there's that. Oh, there's this thing. Oh, cool. Okay." So.
Yeah, they're literally as close as the Georgia Dome and the Arthur Dome, and they're also right on a giant river.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about cities that have a river. They all do it right. I don't know. I don't know if the river just means like, oh, we're gonna be chill. We have a river, you know.
Yeah, so, yeah, no kidding. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Boston, Chicago maybe has a river. Something.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
The
Jacksonville.
green. People always get upset when somebody does it green for.
Oh
St.
yeah,
Patrick's
for
Day,
St.
like
Patty's,
doing
yeah,
something
yeah.
harmful to the environment.
So moving on, I guess the big news, we've been talking about Dale Jr. for so long, might as well keep going. They're expecting their first child, so I would say a lot of the pieces of the puzzle are coming together in terms of, you know, his life decisions and blah, blah, blah. Obviously, you know, this is something that I don't know how far along she is, maybe 6 months. I mean, they know it's a girl, so yeah, I can't remember how long it takes to know that. But
usually you wait 4 or 5 months before you make it public.
You're gonna wait a bit. You know, you gotta say something before, you know, you got pregnant belly walking around. Oh no, we're cool. Or, but you know, you can't say it too soon for, I mean, obvious reasons. But yeah. So I mean, this thing has been things are coming together. You know, the gears are turning, the clocks and all that stuff. So.
Well, the life plan, yeah, for sure. It's funny looking back because he posted this text message conversation he had with Landon Castle like September 3rd or 4th, and they had already found out what was going on, what they were going to have, and that, you know, that it was healthy pregnancy and all that stuff. And Landon was just being a goofball and saying, "My wife is something of a psychic. She woke up this morning and she's convinced you're having a girl." And so Junior kind of sent that, like he screenshotted his text conversation with Landon and said it was really, really hard not to let the truth out then because we had already known for 3 days.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty neat. There was one other thing that I just sort of forgot, like I always do when I get in a conversation that I wanted to say about it. But you know, they brought up something that he said back in 2002 that was like, okay, so like you don't get to experience any more stuff with your dad. What do you think about having a family and kids and all that stuff? And keeping in mind, he was only like 25 years old.
Yeah, I mean, we're 1 year removed from his dad's death. That's a tough question. Yeah,
and so he was kind of like, yeah, I mean that, you know, that stuff. That's all stuff that I want, but you know, it's all about making sure it's the right girl.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That somebody dug that up.
Yeah.
So anyway, especially since we now know that, like, the reason why we all get to see Junior the way Junior actually really is because Amy has coaxed that personality out of him.
Yeah. Yes, that's a very good way to put it. And I'm seeing on the YouTube chat here, JoJo says that's Cincy's her neck of the woods. So awesome. Very
Sweet.
cool. And Brandon Crowd over Lap Traffic. Brandon, we were just talking crap about you. We didn't. I wish you were here for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll be.
Just a little bit.
I'll have to pay for that one.
Oh, that's part of it.
Continuing with the silly season, crazy. TJ Majors to the number 22, and Kevin Hamlin to the 88. You wrote on here, door bumper clear, still going to go on.
Yeah, I mean, that's what TJ said in their podcast yesterday. Is that full intentions to continue his work with the podcast because he will still be spotting for Justin Allgaier when Joey is not running an Xfinity race.
Mm-hmm.
So when Joey runs one, he'll jump over there. But for the other 30 or 27 odd races, he'll be with Justin.
Yeah, yeah. And Kevin Hamlin, I mean, I think it's good to see Kevin Hamlin getting or staying in the fold and in the position. So spotter for Casey Kane right now. So
Yeah, I would assume that decision is a lot more about the business side of what it means to be a spotter, because Kevin's heavily involved in Casey Kane Racing and Casey's business affairs. I don't know if there's a change in that role, but I'm thinking not, since he's staying in Cup with Alex Bowman. I would imagine that Hendrick Motorsports can afford to pay a spotter more money than Levine Family Racing. Just a hunch.
just kind of figured.
So
yeah. I mean, it makes business sense for him. Speaking of business sense, but it's cool to see that they're not just folding that whole team up or anything. It's okay. Well, we're still promoting stuff, and it'll be cool to hear his voice on the 88. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, well, I meant to put my shirt on earlier and I forgot, but yeah, I mean, who's to say that I won't be spending some time listening to that radio? I probably will.
Yep, yep. Sherwin, we'll move on to other sports. You had the hashtag that sucked. You know what happened is old Rusty goes on vacation for a few days. I go radio silent on all sports and everything, and on Twitter and everything. I'm just I'm here to have my fun and do all that. And suddenly, 8 cars finish at Talladega. Georgia Tech takes a heartbreaking loss, and the Atlanta Falcons do the same thing. What the hell?
Yeah, very, very frustrating. Very. So, I mean, planned a nice day to go out to a local bar, watch Georgia Tech play against Miami with Claire, and it was going so well. They were up 24-13. They were up like 14-0 at one point. It really just they had the game in hand, and all of a sudden the sky opened up. The monsoons came down, and with it the bad omens for the Yellow Jackets, including a field goal with 2 seconds left to make it 25-24, which means Tech's 2 losses this year have come by a total of 2 points.
Wow.
Which is frustrating
well,
in and of itself.
You know what it is we're so used to being these fans, and y'all, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you know what to expect every week. If you're going to get a win, it's time to celebrate and tear down the house and all that stuff. But as it feels like as an Atlanta sports fan, you have to have this almost different mindset, because if you start celebrating, you're going to fall hard, whether it's Georgia Tech or Atlanta Falcons or whatever.
I mean, not to pick on them, but even Georgia's had their fair share of those moments.
Sure. And
we had Clemsoning over the weekend, which
we had a Clemsoning finally. Wow.
Yeah, Friday night. They played on a Friday night in a dome up in Syracuse. It's like all of the recipe for a Clemsoning to happen.
Yeah. Throw a little wrench in that gear. So, well, I don't know. What can you say? There's a different breed of fandom than just the people who lose a lot. When it's the people who are up by a touchdown or 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, that takes a different breed of people who are who've had enough losses at that point to go, we're just here to have fun. We're not celebrating. We're not going to give anybody on the other team crap. We're just going to sit here and drink a beer and we lost. All right, we're out of here. Like,
it really did. So this one hurt a lot because I mean,
I was following along. What I was doing, I was following along like as I was waiting to get on a roller coaster. Hey, what's the score? Oh, we're looking okay. Oh, what's the score? And then suddenly it was final 25-24. I went, oh, son of a gun! We were up the whole game.
Yes, we were. And speaking of that, in stepped the Falcons. Mm-hmm. In a game that should have been impossible to lose against one of the worst offenses in the NFL, against a quarterback who really has never really shown a lot of interest in being a quarterback on an NFL team, but has a strong enough arm to continue to get paid to do so. Somehow the Falcons lose at home to the Dolphins and leave everybody going, what in the what?
Yeah. Who's a jigga? What? What happened? So
what?
We've turned into
that. Sucked is a segment that the local sports radio guys that I listen to a lot. They do it on Mondays or Tuesdays, and it's for this exact thing. It's like, we lost to the Dolphins. That sucked.
Shout out to our Miami friends, whoever's out there. That sucked for us. Good for you.
Well, it is 2 losses from teams from Miami. Like, how often are you even going to put those weekends they're going to align?
Man.
So, man, Miami just came through and beast-slapped Atlanta.
Right. So, I mean, props to Miami this week, I guess. Shoot. So let's not dwell on that too much longer. We got some questions from the PTM posse. Mr. Mick Rose at GoDucks42_Mick. If a new manufacturer was to enter NASCAR, and by the way, I know he says if, but it sure is sounding more like when lately.
When, yeah, it's definitely more when than if. If we're like doing one of those voting things like they do on the nightly NASCAR news program where they let you vote on something, the needle's moving towards when.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll restructure the question. When a new manufacturer enters NASCAR, what team do you think that manufacturer would team up with? And
well, so it's a good conversation.
I love it
because it's important to understand that success for a new manufacturer has to happen right away in order for it to work.
And it's got to have a big backing from a big team. Yeah, that's it's tough to say with the folks that are in bed. Here's the thing. So my first thought was, you know who could use a change in manufacturer and really, really, stir the pot and really make something happen and maybe be successful is Roush. But you think Roush will ever leave Ford?
No, so that's one of the things I wanted to run down is it has to be with a team that's already shown they're not 100% committed to a single manufacturer, which means Roush, Richard Childress, and Hendrick Motorsports are off the table.
Mm-hmm.
Those are off the table.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have to start peeking around and like, well, who's the team that switched around a little bit and still been really fast while they were doing it? So Penske comes to mind.
Penske, yep.
Gibbs comes to mind, although I don't think they would want to throw away the success they're having with Toyota right now. I guess if you think about it from the perspective of when Dodge came in the sport, Ray Evernham spent 3 years building that program behind the scenes, and then he shows up to Daytona and wins the pole with Bill Elliott in his car.
Holy crap.
That's the kind of momentum you got to have.
Yeah.
If you look at the way Toyota came into the sport, they came in with Michael Waltrip and Red Bull, and neither of those teams even exist anymore.
Right.
The big turning corner for them was to get Gibbs to switch.
Right.
And now we look at Toyota as a superior manufacturer of cup car racing, at least engines and bodies for sure.
And you see Gibbs is almost synonymous with Toyota.
Yes, synonymous. Even after being with Pontiac for its entire existence until Pontiac went under, belly up in 03 or 04, and they became just a Chevrolet team for the rest of the time they were with GM. But you remember when they switched to Toyota, there was a lot of consternation around motor reliability. They were blowing up all over the place. So I don't know. You got to come in and you got to win, and it's got to be with a team with money, and it's going to be a challenge. That's why I'm not necessarily convinced it's going to be Dodge, although they're the one that obviously make the most sense.
Well, we said BMW too, our guest at the time did, whoever it was.
Well, the manufacturers that build cars in the States you would think would make sense from a win on Sunday, sell on Monday perspective are Honda, Nissan, Volkswagen, BMW.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see if it's any of those foreign-based manufacturers or if it's Dodge, who not foreign-based but foreign-owned now because Fiat Corporation owns Dodge.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, shoot. I mean, you almost have to create a new team, I guess. Which speaking of, Starcom Racing to debut at Kansas with Derek Cope. I guess we haven't really gassed it up yet, but that was kind of a tearing it down. Like, here's some news for coming up.
Well, so I wanted to add something to what you just said because we now have in Cup racing we have something that we've never had before, which is you can buy a charter if there's one available.
Yep.
which means you're going to start all the races. So
Mhm.
that's never existed before for a brand new team.
That's a good point.
So you could potentially show up and say, all right, well, somebody like Levine or Phil Parsons' team, or we saw Tommy Baldwin give up his charter or sell his charter. You know, some of these teams that are kind of doing trying to run races the most economical way possible, that maybe just decide they're done putting in the energy to show up with a car every week. You can just buy that charter and show up with your race car, and you're getting in the race. There are going to be a lot of people that get mad at me for bringing that up, because that's like the big thing about NASCAR is it's run what you brung, right? You show up, if you qualify, you get to run the race.
Yeah.
As opposed to this guaranteed start and stuff. But I don't know. From a business perspective, there's definitely an advantage to doing it that way because of exactly what you said. If you're coming in with BMW or Volkswagen or Nissan or Honda, you probably are going to have to start a team from scratch. You're probably not going to be able to convince a team that could win races to switch to your manufacturer.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless, I mean, the money has to be just
and then somebody backs a Brinks truck up with a bunch of gold bricks in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, guns and women and everything else. Men? I don't know.
Stuff. Hold my beer.
Oh, man. So good question from Mick. I love that question. And I don't know, maybe we'll ask it with a guest too, see what somebody else thinks about it. But yeah, I love it. Let's see, on the YouTube, we had a question from JoJo asking. I like this one because I think it's funny in how repeatable this one is. What's something important you forgot to take to a race, or maybe you left behind after a race? I think this one's funny, and I'll pick on Sherwin a little bit. Sherwin used to be like just every race, every sporting event, Georgia Tech football games, everything. It became routine that, hey, I'm going to go print off my ticket, or I'm going to go get my ticket redone because I forgot it. And it almost became routine. But now Sherwin doesn't forget his ticket anymore. He's got that. But he does forget one very important thing fairly often now, Sherwin. You know what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to think.
Oh, man, he doesn't remember.
This is why it keeps becoming a problem.
It's self-perpetuating. Sherwin routinely forgets his beer.
Oh, my God. Yes, not to the track, or not to the campground, but I will pack a cooler slam full of beer, and leave that son of a gun in the campsite. I have walked a good at least 10 extra miles. Ones that really stick out is how far I got so Darlington, I got all the way to where they're taking tickets.
Oh,
Charlotte, I didn't quite get that far, but felt like almost as far. Yeah,
I like that. I like that stat. Career miles for getting beer.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even turn around and go back and get it when I forgot I'm at Bristol.
At least yours. at the Xfinity race, at least.
Yeah. That was Xfinity, a little shorter.
Yeah, it was Xfinity race. Sherwin's like, I forgot my beer. I'm like, dude, I packed like 10 of them. We'll drink on this. I'll be fine. So we figured it out for that one. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to maliciously pick on you here, but that one it came to mind when it was, hey, what's something you forget? I'm like, the beer. I'm trying to think. I can't remember something big that we forgot before. I mean, there's been tickets here and there, but now in this day and age, you just get them reprinted from your name. It's not a big deal. I mean, minor inconvenience, but yeah, we've you know what it is? Here's the thing.
We forgot the lawn one time, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. But now, here's the thing.
Couple years.
I think we've talked about it before. You got to, with all the races that we go to and all the tailgating that we do, I have a closet, and I know if I empty out the tailgate closet, I have everything I need. I don't have to think about it anymore. Nothing doing. And when I get home, it's important that you put everything back in the you can't just set it in the garage or on the carport or whatever and let it, ferment for however long. When you get home, you got to clean up. But as long as you clean up and you put everything back in the tailgate closet where it goes and you wipe it down and whatnot, you will not forget anything, because all you have to do is clean out the tailgate closet and throw it in the bed of the truck, and you're there. So I think we've said it before. Like, all right, if we have the tailgate closet, then everything else we can buy, you know, or we can figure
True.
out. So, but there's
story.
a few things that are. I guess you could buy most of the stuff in the tailgate closet. You know what? I forgot my cot one time. You remember that one? I
Yes,
forgot my
I
cot
do.
at Bristol, and we got to Bristol, and we went to the Walmart up at Bristol. I bought a cot. I put it in the tent. I used it for 2-3 nights, whatever it was, and then I drove back to Atlanta, and I went to the Walmart in Atlanta and returned that sun gun, and they took it, full refund, no questions asked. Walmart, take anything back, y'all. It was beautiful.
Oh man, that was the second time you took advantage of the Walmart will take anything back clause.
Well, the first time was somewhat, and by the way, both of them had to do with Bristol.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
The first one I at least owned it. Like I bought it, I owned it, and I wanted a new one. I didn't want the money. I wanted the thing, you know. And so the first time was when there was one of those just. It wasn't a tornado, but it might as well have been in the campground at Bristol, and our canopy just got. And there's video of it somewhere out there.
I was going to say we've got video of it somewhere. We're laughing because it's raining so hard, and the wind's blowing so hard that we're holding down the canopy to keep it from flying away. Yet it's raining so hard. There's like 100 pounds of water collecting in the vestibules, which ultimately caused one of the support bars to break.
Right. So, I took that right back to. I mean, in a mess too, just a mess of it, and took it back. And what's funny was the guy in front of me, or girl or whoever it was, they were taking back something, and the Walmart people were giving them crap about it, like. No, you can't bring that, or no, you can't do that. I'm like, whoa, Walmart's refusing to take something back. I'm screwed. This thing's busted to hell, and it's over a year old. Like, why would they? And so I'm like, all right, got to put on game face, got to put on rusty face, walk up there like you know what you're doing. I walked up there, and I'm like, hey, this thing busted. I need a new one. And they were like, okay. And they it still had the tag or whatever on it. And they rung it up. They're like, well, we can't give you, like, money. I'm like, no, I just want the thing. Let me go get a new thing. They're like, oh, yeah, go get a new one and bring it up here. And it's like, booyah, all right.
New thing.
I don't know what the person in front of me cussed him out for, but, like, dude, all you got to do is go get the new thing, and you got it. So
yeah, you're good to go.
Yeah. Well, let's start gassing it up. Where are we going? We're going to Kansas. Holy crap. Whoa, there it is. There is.
Yeah, we're not in Kansas anymore. But we will be.
But we will be shortly. Strong bubble right now. Blaney, Jimmy, Kyle, Kenseth. 10-point separation between the four of them, Sherwin. Who do you have of those four coming out?
How many of them can?
Two of them can.
Just two?
Yeah. Blaney and Jimmy are in. Kyle and Kenseth are out, and they're all separated by, I think Blaney is minus 44 and Kenseth is minus 54 off the lead.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? History says you ought to pick Jimmy because Canals is so good at what he does, and Jimmy is obviously good at what he does. But I don't know. They're just not. They're just not showing the strength you'd expect. That 24 car is. Now, if he was in that bubble, I would have maybe something different to say. But Blaney, unfortunately for him, he's in one of those Fords that apparently doesn't have any downforce.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to Brad anyway. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just picking because of what I want to happen. I want Blaney to be one of them for sure.
Yeah, I do too.
Just to I think that makes for a better story for the next round.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and oh shoot, I had a saying in my mind, but it's not safe for work, so I'm going to go ahead and spill the beans here on my pick. Kansas, I believe I'm 3 in a row on picking the same person, so I might as well make it a superfecta. Kenseth at Kansas. Kansas at Kansas.
Kansas at Kansas?
Kansas at Kansas. So my pick of those four, Blaney, Jimmy, Kyle, Kenseth, I've got Kenseth coming out of Kansas winning. So he gets in on the win, but I think he's strong enough to make it in on points, even if he doesn't, because he's going to finish strong. And then the heart pick is Blaney, which which is funny because then that means it leaves Kyle and Jimmy out. Like, I'm not sure if I'm a smart guy to do that.
I understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
I understand the skepticism in the decision there, or the decision-making process, but I don't hate it. So you're going to go ahead and make your pick be Kansas.
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right. Well,
Whether I'm not sure if I deserve to pick first, so my B on that, but it tied in with the segment. It really held the room together. That's what I'm saying.
Held the room together.
Tied the room together.
Oh, I got to tell you about this. You got to listen to this podcast. Both Bridges and Jeff Bridges were both on Mark Maron's podcast.
Oh, man.
It was really good.
That sounds awesome.
But let me get to my pick before I chase the white rabbit on that. But just because of how humorous it would be for him to have to answer the questions, what the commentary would be, I'm going to go back to back.
Okay.
And pick Brad Keselowski.
Wow. How huge would that be? Make it. Brad or Martin Truex to steal the win, if you will, and make everybody else race in on points.
Yeah, so this is like make it, take it. I'm making it and taking it.
Make it and take it. Yeah, I love it. Street ball rules here. That's fantastic. I love that pick. So so on the as far as bubble stuff, I'll go Kenseth and Blaney. And again, that just leaves Jimmy and Kyle, which it's one of those. Well, I picked these two, so that's what happens when you.
That's the results.
Yeah, that's what happens when you pick those.
Is there any? I guess there's probably not anybody else that could fall out based on the total points available.
I think there are, but it's one of those like weird situation things that situation that they're not the ones folks are talking about. All I'm doing right now is actually stalling to go and look at these things.
I wish I'd have known that's what you were doing.
It's cool. Chase is 11 points ahead of Blaney, and then Blaney is 10 points ahead. Chase is in 6th, Blaney's in 7th, and they're separated by 11. And then the next 4 are separated by 10. And then
so
Stenhouse is another 14 behind Kenseth. So really that bubble is pretty strong with those 4.
Yeah. The stages open up an opportunity for a bigger points day than we've ever seen in the past. But I think what we've seen is if you have to finish more than 10 or 15 positions ahead of somebody who's in the chase, which means they're one of the 12 fastest cars in the circuit, that's going to be really hard to do. It's not you having a good day unless you win and you get in automatically.
Yep.
So go out and win if that's what what your mindset is. But you aren't running 14 positions better than Blaney if they don't have a crappy day.
Right. So, we forgot to say it. Another one of those effects of this style of racing at Talladega. Gray Galding with a top 10 at Talladega. I love those stories. I love seeing that. Obviously, when DiBenedetto got 6 at Bristol, that almost means more because it's Bristol. You have to actually race there and not just turn laps and not crash. It's you actually have to do something as opposed to not do something. You know what I mean?
Well, do you have to do something at the easiest place to get lapped?
Right. But not to take away Gray Galding, which is really cool to see him, 19 years old, finished 9th at Dega. So good for him.
Yeah, a top 10 in the Cup Series is no joke, and nobody's going to care where it was and what the circumstances was 20 years from now when he's telling his kids about it.
Mm-hmm. And quick shout out to Matt DiBenedetto fan on the YouTube for bringing that up. Hey, you joined the PETM posse on the YouTube right there, and he threw it in there, and we made it part of the show notes. Just made a seamless effort there, except for breaking the fourth wall right now.
Well, and not only that, but D Burrito was on the Lap Traffic podcast tonight. That's already finished recording, and I imagine when we hang up on this podcast, it'll be available on iTunes for audio consumption.
Excellent. Well, I'll look forward to that. That's awesome. So, y'all be sure to listen to that. Listen to this. If you're listening to this, be sure you go listen to that.
For sure.
You know how it is at the end of the podcast, man. And I can't believe it. We're over an hour. We're like an hour.
We're 62 minutes in, I think.
Yeah. So, as always, when we're short on notes, we just figure out something, talk about jury duty and Georgia Tech, whatever else.
Yeah, there's comedians that are one-liners like Anthony Jeselnik,
Yeah.
and then there's comedians that tell like 3 stories in 90 minutes, like Norm Macdonald.
Y'all do me a favor right now. Go look up Anthony Jeselnik, Thoughts and Prayers. Look at that bit. It's the funniest thing You're
either going to laugh or cry.
Yeah, it hits deep. It goes deep, and that is how I said it on the last podcast, and I got some props, by the way. Bodacious on Twitter, he was like, Rusty, you're totally right about the people taking things too seriously. And that kind of underscores that a little bit. Y'all, listen, if you don't do anything else, go look up Anthony Jeselnik and Thoughts and Prayers.
And you aren't allowed to be offended beyond just like a surface level, because comedy is the only arena where people are allowed to say anything they want in an effort to get someone to laugh.
Right. I won't repeat it because I'm not a comedian and I can't, I don't have that poetic license. But
yeah.
So brings us to Strange with Staying, and this one hits deep, dude. This one, she kind of came after us, not came after us like in a malicious way, but like she knows us and she knows our history of weather at races, and decided to bring it up. First off, what's a percent of races that we've had to sit and endure crappy weather? She didn't say crappy, but y'all can fill in the blank there. And a cancellation. And then second, what's your favorite crappy weather moment or memory? And what did you two ass clowns do to pass the time? Now here's the thing, y'all. I'm going to do this. I'm gonna say that me and Sherwin very much agree, no doubt, wholeheartedly. Our favorite crappy weather memory is at Talladega, and you're going to have to ask us in person to tell you the story about what we did to pass the time, because I'm not saying it on this podcast.
You're going to let their minds are going to wander there.
Well, it's not sexy. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not like that. No. But there's no doubt. That's one of my favorite race memories, by the way, and it was sitting there in the crappiest weather on Earth. We made ribs on my old piece of junk smoker, and they were
the best 2-hour ribs that anybody's ever made. I guarantee.
I've tried to replicate that, but there's no way to do it. You have to have like 1,000% humidity with rain, or whatever to make that
48 degrees outside ambient temperature.
Yeah, perfect.
In May.
Y'all stop us at some point and say, tell me your Talladega story, and we will tell it in person, but I will not say.
Right. It's not fit to live forever on YouTube.
Right, exactly. So I want to give that teaser, so people will understand it. But what's the percent of races you've had to sit and endure crappy weather and a cancellation? I don't know whether to laugh, cry, or cry hard.
Well, you remember the first one,
Atlanta,
when we still had the bigger group.
Yep.
We for the very first time, we had got a camping spot up by the big pond where all the fun used to be had at Atlanta off turn 4.
Oh, yeah.
And we had the worst camping spot, like terrain you could have.
On a hill, rocks with tree roots.
On a hill, terrain, rocks. Yeah, on it. There was 2 trees in our parking.
We didn't know how to camp either. I was sleeping in like jeans. Oh my God.
It was freezing cold because it was, St. Patty's Day weekend.
And we were drunk.
We played poker inside the tent.
Yep.
We all brought our chairs inside the tent and played poker until they announced that the race was rained out.
Well, it was Colin's tent too, and I know nobody on here knows what I mean by Colin. But if you're in our little group, when you say it was Colin's tent, it doesn't matter if you've ever seen that tent or if you know that tent or anything. If you know Colin, you know this tent is going to have 3,000 pieces. It's going to be from 1947, and it's going to be just the most intricate, complicated, overcomplicated thing on Earth. And yeah, we just parked 4 chairs in there and played poker in that thing. So you're right. That was our first rain out, and I think that's about when we lost Colin from going to races anymore, because that's I think he paid this was back in our poor days too, right? So I mean,
I was still in college,
right? We paid $100-something for the tickets because we decided we were gonna move up, and
moving on up.
Yep. And did Casey Kane win that race? Was that 06 or whatever it was?
Yep, I've told this story. I was at work the next day. Remember they said that it was going to rain for 2 days, so be prepared. They're going to run the race on Tuesday, and I was like, sweet, I'll skip class because I only had class on Tuesdays and Thursdays that semester, and I worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so I walk into work at 9:30 in the morning on Monday, and I said, look, I got this ticket to the race. Can you spare me today? And they're like, you are the third person to ask. 2 other people are sick. And I'm like, damn. So I listened to it on the radio in the back. I was put numbers and names on uniforms and listening to Casey drop from first to 10th beginning of every run and race his way back to the front like he used to do.
Yep.
And win the race.
I did not have enough clout at my work at that point, or enough, whatever. I've been with my company for a little over 13 years now. So today, ain't no doubt I would be at the race the next day. Back then, I did not have the, like I said, clout or whatever you want to call it, the chits to be able to cash those in at that point. So that was a bummer to listen to that on the radio and go, I cannot believe Casey just won that. Like, I wanted to go just to go. Obviously, I got the ticket, I got all the stuff right here, but didn't get to go. So. But percentage-wise, shoot, it's got to be. I mean, how many? You counted how many races have we been to?
50. I've been to 52 race weekends.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. We've been to a year's worth of races, just about. And I would say, how many rainouts have we had? 5 or 6?
So we
10%?
had 06 at Atlanta. Mm-hmm. We had 010 at Atlanta because that was that awesome Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, like crazy 10 laps to the finish where they were just chasing each other wicked sideways. So we've now had 2 Bristol races rained out. Yeah, because back to back August and spring. We had a Charlotte whole weekend hurricaned out.
That one we didn't even go. We had the tickets.
We didn't even get. We never even loaded up the truck. We just didn't even go. And then so we survived the Talladega weekend where both races had multiple long rain delays and ended at dark.
That was the 8-hour race at Dega. Yep.
Yeah. That Xfinity race was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Casey won-ish, but they called the race early.
Oh,
so
yeah.
They gave it to Logano, remember?
Yep.
Because that would have been the only time we'd ever seen in person Casey win an Xfinity race.
Yep.
And then Reagan wins the race the next day because of craziness.
Yeah.
So I guess that's 5, really?
Yep. 5. So 5, there you go. 10% of the race.
I mean, that's a lot.
That's a bunch. There ain't 10% of the races that get rained out. So
10% on at least one of the races getting rained out. We've only had one entire washout weekend.
Yeah, that was the Charlotte. So anyway, Ashley, thank you for the question as always, and be sure to ask us in person about Talladega. Don't fail to do it. That is a fun story. But yeah. Anyway, with that, dude, time to close her out. Can't believe it's been an hour and 10, but that's how we roll on this thing sometimes.
That's how we roll.
Yep. So, Brandon and Sydney Lett there, and y'all know where to find us. Y'all know what to do at PTM Podcast, PTMPodcast.com, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media, whatever you want to do. As always,
it's all consistent.
What's that?
It's all consistent.
Oh, yeah, consistent. He's got it going. He's got the guitar going. Sherwin, play us out. As always, I'm Tailgate Mayor at Tailgate Mayor. And Sherwin, you are
Pre-game engineer.
All right, and
all the places.
We'll talk to y'all later. We'll talk to y'all next week.
ADD'd out there for a second.
It's all good. And there it is, an hour and 12 minutes in. Thank y'all for joining. Hope y'all had some fun. I know I did. And first time in a while, Sherwin, doing this thing remotely. So, what can you say?
I did notice that it was a little bit harder to, understand the gaps, the entry points for you and I swapping conversation.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's definitely harder.
It's easier if we were able to see each other. Unfortunately, I still need to figure this thing out with the technology. But yeah, it's at least the people can see us. But yeah, what can I say? I thought it went fine.
I did too.
I had
thought
fun.
So too. I think it's going to be a good show.
We hadn't been able to.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we hadn't been able to BS in a week, so.
True. And, it's funny. I think one of the ways I'll judge the transitions that we made is how often one or the other of us had to say, go ahead. Because I felt like we actually did a good job of not having to say that.
Yes. Yeah. And y'all, if you're ever, for the post-show folks here, if you're ever doing something like this or whatever, you've got to do a digital, you got to be over digital when you have guests and stuff. And y'all can tell when we have people who call in on the phone, the analog, just over the phone, you have these pauses that you don't know if somebody is pausing to take a breath or if they're pausing for you. And then suddenly you're like, oh, well, I'll talk now. But they were just pausing for a breath. And now you're all screwed up because now you're still another second behind each other. And go ahead. Oh, yeah, sorry. Blah, blah, blah. But if you do digital like we're doing right here, it's almost instantaneous. So, that makes a big difference.
It's definitely better, and you can, so we joke about so if we do an analog call, we actually have to wait for a whole second, but they kind of teach you, and I've read a little bit about broadcasting, is you're supposed to, in your mind, program what a half a second pause is, because a half a second is the pause that it's enough time to let you know the other person has stopped talking.
Mm-hmm.
So you got half a second programmed in your mind, but with a cell phone, you really need a whole second because, like you said, there's a lag. So when that person stops talking, they don't hear anything. They start talking again. But half a second in, we started talking. But that's a half a second rollover with the analog signal, so it gets kind of messy.
Yep. So it's a whole ordeal. What can you say? So.
It's an ordeal, and I definitely have had feedback from people via text. You need to coach so-and-so that Skype is a better option. Sometimes it's not an option at all. Or sometimes they don't have Skype or they're not where their Skype's at or whatever. So it's funny to me. People notice and they give you feedback. It's funny.
I love it. So thank you, PT and Posse. We're going to shut this thing down. But it's been an absolute blast, as always. And hope you enjoyed it with us doing not only no guests, but also remote. Trying that out once again, and next week we should be in the same place, same PTM time, same PTM place.
We didn't put it on the audio cut, but we can share with our guests that are still hanging out now.
Sure.
Author of Earnhardt Nation and writer for Yahoo Sports. Most recent guest on the Jeff Gluck post-race Untitled podcast, Mr. Jay Busby from Atlanta, Georgia.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a blast. And I say same PTM podcast time and place. We don't really have a time or a place, so
no,
we'll figure it out.
I thought I was traveling next week, but I'm actually not. I have a gap where then I have 2 weeks in a row. So the week of November Halloween, October 31st, I'm flying to Columbus. November 6th, I'm flying to Austin, Texas. Those weeks are going to be tricky.
Okay.
But we may do another one of these.
Yeah. It worked, evidently.
Sure did.
So,
actually, Columbus, I'll only be gone one night. The Austin, Texas thing is a 3-night, 4-day conference. So that's the one that might get a little messy.
Did you get into that beer, by the way?
Yeah, this beer is fantastic.
I was about to ask, how is it?
It doesn't taste like any of the, there are triples and doubles and quads that I don't like. This is not one of them.
I like the way you put it.
It doesn't taste like you're drinking a Belgian beer. It just tastes like a really good beer.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I will. I'll look for that. I haven't had that particular one. Obviously, I've had. You said Boulevard, right?
Yeah, and everything they make is something like extra. It's kind of like Southern Tier.
Okay.
Like all their stuff is. It's not. There's nothing that's just normal.
Dogfish. I guess Dogfish even has normal though. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But I mean, even like so, their Pilsner is like, and then their Pilsner is an Imperial Pilsner. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like everything is like on kill.
Yeah. I called this episode all about lemons, meaning all these things that we were given lemons and we made lemonade. So maybe somebody will get it. If not, I just spilled the beans at the very end of the YouTube broadcast. So maybe somebody will understand. But
yeah, well, that's the whole point of giving them the extra content.
Yeah.
So willing to stick around this long. They've been here with us since 9:07, so good for them.
Appreciate y'all. We're gonna stop this stream and get going. I got to get this thing uploaded and running and blah 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 blah. So thank you for joining. As always, we'll talk to y'all later.
Appreciate it.